let's go around the NFC right now as we solidify the playoff picture. New Orleans Saints and the Tampa Bay Bucs. The Bucs held on. It was tenuous for a while. Bucs get the win 27-19. They win the NFC South for the third straight year. They go to 10-7. Saints were up in this game though, and this was going. We talked about on the recap of the instant reaction show. This game being side by side with Panthers Falcons. Yeah. Falcons needed to win. They needed a Bucs loss. Bucs just needed to win and they're in. And they're down 16-6 to a Saints team that had put together some of the worst performances in the NFL over the last couple of weeks. But they get back in it, and Baker Mayfield in the fourth quarter, a 4th and 8 dime to Jalen McMillan, a 32-yard dime to Jalen McMillan for a touchdown, a 28-yard scramble. Baker Mayfield making the big plays when the Bucs needed them.
Yeah, it really was. So if you can see over our shoulder, there's the one giant screen here. Back when all the games were on, there were 3 big screens in the middle, and they had these 2 games that were, so related side by side. So you could watch New Orleans, Tampa Bay on one screen, and then Carolina, Atlanta was on the other screen. And these 2 games are going back and forth. And, after the Falcons had made a mess of it last week, obviously this felt like a quite unlikely scenario to unfold because the Saints were wrecked injury-wise. They're starting Spencer Rattler. Like, there's no chance that a good Tampa Bay team finds a way to lose this game. But the Saints were moving the ball. They were having success. They were putting up points, and it was happening, The Saints were winning the game. They had the Bucs in trouble, and Carolina and Atlanta was a close game as well. So this was like a fascinating 2-game mix to be watching all the way through. And then you're right. The difference became eventually Baker Mayfield just went, all right, no more. I'm going to take over all the high leverage plays. I'm going to make dimes for a big play, dime for a touchdown. 3rd and 9, I'm going to pick it up from my own end zone. 3rd and 14, I'm going to scramble to pick it up. And Baker just showed up and made all the plays.
This was after the Saints were kind of controlling this game too.
Yeah.
They converted several 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s, playing the underdog role really well, kind of slowing the game down, shorter possessions. So they were very much in control of this game, going into the second half and not going away. And you're right, Baker just made a bunch of plays going forward. And, with the game on the line, Jalen McMillan, with those 2 huge catches, he was the recipient of those dimes from Mayfield. And then they got Mike Evans his 1,000 yards, right? This was talk about this a little bit because you were tweeting through this. So the Bucs make the final stop on the Saints. They're up 8. And they go into, 30 seconds left, 20 seconds left, whatever it was. They're going to take a knee. Game's over in any other game.
Yeah.
But Mike Evans is at 995 yards. He's got 10 straight years of 1,000 yards. They want to get him the 11th straight year, and they pass the ball, get 8 yards to get him over the 1,000.
Yeah. And it was interesting because the Saints didn't really contest it. It's not like they just stood back and let him make the play. But they, when Tampa Bay runs a play in that situation, any other game in any other scenario, the team is kneeling the ball, right? It's victory formation. You've won. We're not running a play anymore because there's a risk that if you run a play, you can turn the ball over. If the worst happens, you can turn it over, and that's literally the only way the opposition can win. So as soon as Tampa Bay runs up to run a play, it should have been a fairly obvious signal to the New Orleans. Why would they run a play here? Oh, it's because Mike Evans is 5 yards short of this target that they've been trying to get him for the last several weeks. So why would you defend anything other than Mike Evans on that play? Like the Bucs ran a nice, pick play essentially to get him open. But if New Orleans just jumped those routes, like they could theoretically have tried to jump that play, abandoned anything else. We're only playing Mike Evans inside and outside. We're going to jump the route. And if they picked it off, you could have had maybe the most ridiculous screw up in NFL history because that would have, New Orleans could have tied the game effectively, got a touchdown, 2-point conversion. That could have cost Tampa Bay the entire season trying to feed Mike Evans to get his streak and his $3 million.
And when you tweeted that out, it wasn't, you weren't saying that so they could screw Mike Evans. It was so they could win the game. Mike Evans, not only does he get his 11th season straight of 1,000 yards, and that's going to be his Hall of Fame case and all that, ties Jerry Rice. But what was I?
Yeah, the point was not that the Saints should be actively trying to screw Mike Evans out of $3 million.
Oh, $3 million. I'm like, what was I about to say?
The point was that a team
-1.
The Saints may not have had anything to play for this week, but they were trying to win this game all the way through it, right? And that was a chance to win the game that you do not normally get, which is as soon as they're running a play, you are basically guaranteed to know where they're going with it, right? They're only running a play to feed Mike Evans the football. So you have an unusual opportunity to basically cheat on defense and try and jump whatever they're throwing to him.
Yeah, there was some wild plays in this. By the way, before Baker hit that 4th and 8 to Jalen McMillan, I mean, it was looking bleak for the Bucs. Now, it wouldn't have mattered because the Panthers won, and we'll talk about that game in a second. But they had 3rd and 2, and they ran a QB sweep with Baker Mayfield. He's been a good scrambler. Remember, there's a difference between design runs and scrambles. QB sweep with Baker Mayfield. Not really his game, Sam. Goes for -6, and it's like, all right, now you're stuck at 4th and 8, and he drops an absolute dime to Jalen McMillan. Big-time throw down the field. So the Bucs showed a lot of resiliency, and they seem like the team that could be very dangerous because of the volatility of Baker's game and Mike Evans' ability to take over games, and Jalen McMillan emerging as a weapon and Bucky Irving emerging as a weapon. They feel like they can compete. They got the Commanders next week now because the Rams rested starters and lost. The Bucs moved to the 3 seed. They didn't just sneak into the 4. They were the 3 seed, and so they're going to host the Commanders next week.
I mean, I honestly think all of the playoff matchups now are extremely compelling on paper. It might not end up that way. I mean, we've already seen, for example, the Baltimore Ravens look a lot better than the Pittsburgh Steelers fairly recently. So it can definitely go that way. But on paper, every one of these matchups is intriguing, compelling, and potentially very good.
And we get playoff Lattimore and Evans.
Yeah.
We saw that a couple years ago, Saints-Bucs in the NFC divisional round when Brady was still there. But we do get a little Lattimore for the Commanders against them.
Lattimore wouldn't have let that happen. Not on his watch.
Could you imagine if Evans needed 1,000 and Lattimore was on the other side?
And there's 5 yards to get in one play. Lattimore's not letting that happen.
Lattimore would have tackled him.
Yeah.
And said, we're going to run the clock out of this game.
I will take a penalty for the next 5 minutes rather than give you your 5 yards.
Play, and you are not getting your 1,000. I'm going to rob you of $3 million.
Yep.
I don't care. There were millions flying around over here at Circa today too. There was a lot of energy in the room as hundreds of thousands were on the line, basically, to get people over the million.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.